अस्सलाम वालेकुम एवरीवन। आज का जो हमारा लेक्चर है वो इट्स अबाउट द लेक्चर नंबर 13 एंड इट विल बी अबाउट द नेटवर्क लेयर. Let's review what we have discussed so far. We have finished with the discussion of transport layer, in which we have discussed about the connectionless transport and the connection oriented transport. For the connectionless transport, we have discussed about the UDP and how it works, and then in the connection oriented transport we have discussed about the reliable data transfer RDT protocol, and then we have discussed about the TCP, how the TCP protocol works, and how the events at the sender and the receiver are being catered through the finite state machine models. So basically the transport layer does here the end-to-end delivery of data from source to destination, and whether this service has to be in a connection oriented service or a connectionless service. So we have done with the discussion of transport layer. Now let's move on to the third layer from the top, which is the network layer. What does network layer do here? Basically it transports the segments from sender to the receiver, but it doesn't give the end-to-end delivery. It basically what it do, it does the routing and the forwarding of packets from the source to destination, how the packets will be routed and which route they will adopt and how they will be forwarded. So it is done at the network layer. And what it do at the sending end, it basically encapsulate the segments which are being received from the transport layer into the datagrams or the packets. So basically the packetization is done at the network layer. How the packet is being formed, the received segments from the transport layer at the sending end are being converted into the smaller pieces of data called packets or datagrams, and the IP address or the logical address of the network are of sender and receiver are inserted into the datagrams, which makes it to be a packet. And at the receiving end, it delivered these segments to the transport layer. It basically convert the packet into a segment, and then it delivered it to the transport layer. So the network layer protocol works in every host and router. Let's see how a router will do here. What is a router? Router is a network layer device which has the functionality of routing the packets from source to destination and forwarding it onto the particular port. So router will determine the route or the best path based on the IP addresses. I have discussed in the introductory lectures that there are addressing in networks which helps in better understanding of the working mechanism. IP address is one of the address which consists of two versions of version 4 and version 6. In version 4 there are 32 bits for the address to be allocated, and in version 6 there are 128 bits for the address to be made of. So how does network layer work? Let's see through the demonstration of an example. Consider this figure here on your slide. In this figure you can see the router are the core devices highlighted in green color, and you can see the end systems or the access devices, which are your laptop, your mobiles, your vehicle, or your PCs or servers. So how network layer will do here? So the network layer, it as you can see, it is a third layer from either from top or from bottom. So all, as I have discussed earlier, that all the 5 layers of your TCP IP model is comprised is in your end systems, and your core devices can have maximum of lower 3 layers. And so the router is a device which works on the lowest 3 layers: network layer, data link layer, and the physical layer. So it is a layer 3 device. So in the core devices or the router devices, you can see the bottom three layers. So what it will do here, you can see data to be received from application layer to the transport layer and onto the network layer. What network layer here is do, network layer will do the packetization. It will add the IP address. So you can see the packet has been formed, and each router will check whether where it would be delivered, and then network layer will deliver the packet and to the transport layer at the receiving end. So the packet will be flown throughout the network, and it will be decided by each router where it will be forwarded based on the source and destination IP address. So the routing and forwarding will be done here to efficiently deliver the packet to the particular destination. So there are two key functionalities of a network layer. Firstly is the forwarding of packets, and second one is the routing of packets. So forwarding is basically moving your packets from router input to the appropriate router output port. When your packet is arrived at the router, so it is basically an incoming packet to a router. So what forwarding will do, it will forward the packet onto the particular router output port. And whereas on this second hand, the routing functionality will do, it will determine the route which is to be taken by the packet from source to destination. So how it will be determined? It will be determined using the routing algorithms. We will discuss the routing algorithm in the upcoming lectures. So how does this work? Assume an analogy or an example of you are planning your trip from a source to a destination. For example, you are planning your trip from Lahore to Swat. So what you will do, you will first check about the route which will you have to adopt, which route you will adopt, either GT road or motorway, or which one you feasible for. So you will determine your route based on your criteria. Suppose you have the criteria of determining the best route based on your time, which means the time taken on which route is been least. So the lesser timer route will be adopted. Suppose the lesser timer route is the motorway, so you will adopt the route of motorway from Lahore to Swat. So routing is basically planning your trip from source to destination. So you will determine firstly your route, and then process through each single interchange will be called your processing through each single interchange will be your forwarding of how you will go from one interchange to the second interchange. Then it will be your forwarding of the route. So that will help you understand the network two basic functionality of network layer. So how does this routing and forwarding functionality plays its role in the router or your core devices? So how does router do? A router comprise of a routing algorithm which will determine the forwarding table, and the routing algorithm can either be it can be your Dijkstra or anyone else or Bellman Ford. We will see what type of routing algorithm we will discuss in the upcoming lectures. So routing algorithm will determine your local forwarding table. Your local forwarding table will be consisting of a header value or an input value and your appropriate output link. Suppose your packet has your incoming packet has a header value of this. Basically, this header value is your IP address. So I have converted it into the binary form. So suppose a header value of this will your forwarding table is consists of something like that. If this header value comes, then it will go on to the output link number 3 of the router. So if this header value come or this value come, it will go on for output link number 2, or if this values come, it will go on output link number 1. So assume this packet is arrived with a header value of 0111. So on this router, so what it will do, Basically, this forwarding table is computed by an routing algorithm. So what will router will do here? It will match the prefix and will determine the output link. So this packet of this header value will be matched here in the forwarding table, and it is matched here. The match has been occurred. So this header value of packet will be going through the output link number 2. So it will be going on to this link number 2. So this route will be adopted by this incoming packet. So the routing algorithm will determine your end-to-end path throughout the network, and forwarding table will be determined based on this routing algorithm. So we have discussed in the transport layer that there are two types of services: connection oriented service and connection less service. In network layer, the datagram provides your connection less service, and the virtual circuit network provides the connection oriented or connection service. It is similar to the UDP and TCP connection oriented and connection less service, but the difference here are this service, the virtual datagram or virtual circuit, or the datagram, which is connection less or connection service, is basically a host to host service. It is not end to end service, and there is no choice. The network provides one or another. You cannot and the implementation is only in the network core, so it cannot be these services will not be implemented at the access or your end devices. So first discuss about the virtual circuit. A virtual circuit is a connection oriented service in the network layer. It basically it behaves much like your telephone circuit, in which you first have to establish your connection and then you will be transmitting the data. Basically, in your telephone circuit, what you do here is you basically dial the destination phone number, and this exchange will connect your particular subscriber, and then after the successful connection, you will be transferring your data. So virtual circuit is similar as your telephone circuit. In this, connection is being established before the transmission of data, and after the data has been transmitted, the connection will be terminated. So its performance, it is better in performance as compared to the datagram, but here is the problem here is that if if the connection is established and user is not using its connection, then it cannot be teared down until any of the user tear down its connection. So in this, firstly a call setup has to be done, and after call setup, the data will be flow from sender to receiver, and after the data flow, the connection will be teared down. So each packet will carry the virtual circuit identifier, and every router on source to path on source to destination path will maintain the state for each passing of connection and the link or the router resources may be allocated to each the virtual circuit. It means the resources are dedicated and the service can be predicted. So how this virtual circuit is implemented? Virtual circuits consist of a path which is from source to destination, a virtual circuit number. It is a number for each link along the path, and third implementation is entries in the forwarding table. I have discussed that it will maintain the state of every packet which has been forwarded from source to destination. So the packet belonging to virtual circuit will carry the virtual circuit number rather than the destination number. So the virtual circuit number can be changed on each link, and new virtual circuit number comes from the forwarding table. So this let's see through an example. So the forwarding table will be computed by a routing algorithm. Suppose your PC has been connected to this router and this is providing a virtual circuit service, which is a connection oriented service, So the forwarding table of in case of virtual circuit will be something like this. In this incoming interface and the incoming virtual circuit number, and then we'll be having a outgoing interface and an outgoing virtual circuit number. So in this case, the virtual circuit router will maintain the connection state information as well, whether this connection is alive or has been terminated, as because in order to provide a better performance of service. So if this forwarding table has been computed, that if this virtual circuit number comes from the incoming interface number 1, it will be going on to the interface number 3, and the output virtual circuit number will be converted back to 22, and so on, so forth. So this there will be a incoming forwarding table and an outgoing forwarding table for a case of virtual circuit. And also the virtual circuit router will maintain whether this connection which has been established is alive or has been terminated. So it will maintain the state of the connection as well. So how it do the connection, how it do the state maintaining in the connection. So in order to establish the connection, and in order to tear down the connection, and in order to tell the sender or the receiver that the connection has been terminated, signaling protocol are being used in order to notify the subscriber and the network whether this connection is alive or not. So signaling protocols are used to set up the connection and used to maintain the connection, and as well used to tear down the circuits, as they are previously used in ATM's frame relay and X.25. These are the wide area network standards, and these signaling protocols are not been implemented in today's internet. So assume an example. Let's discuss an example of the virtual circuit. In this, the source is on your left side and the destination is on your right side. So it will basically initiate the call. First step is initiating the call. Second step, it will receive the incoming call, and as soon as it will receive, it will accept the call, and then the acceptance signal will be told by the signaling protocol that your call has been connected and it's been accepted. And the fourth step is to tell the source that your call has been connected, and the data flow will begin. The receiver will receive its data, and third step is to terminate the connection. So any entity can terminate the connection. So suppose this entity terminates the connection, so it will tell, signaling protocol will tell the receiver that your connection has been terminated by a ringing tone or by a disconnection tone. So let's move on to the second type of service which is being provided by the network layer, which is connectionless service, and it's been provided through the datagram networks, and as it is analogous to the UDP service. In UDP, we have discussed that there is no need to set up the connection. Similarly, in datagram networks, we do not establish the connection before transmission of data. So the call establishment phase is not occurred in the datagram network. So what the router of datagram network will do, it will not maintain the state because there is no connection being established. So no state has been maintained about the end-to-end connection. So no network layer concept of connection in datagram networks. Packets are forwarding using your host destination address, which is your IP address. So and each datagram can have multiple paths. Every datagram is treated separately, whereas in virtual circuit, the decision which is done at the first packet will be adopted by all the packets until unless the call has been terminated. In datagram networks, each datagram or each packet is been treated independently. So every datagram can have its own path and can have various paths as well based on the network conditions. So first step is to send the data, and second step will be to receive the data. There is no need to set up the connection. So each datagram will be processed upon the independently, and it will be processed upon the host address. So in datagram, in datagram networks, a forwarding table is to maintain a simplified type of forwarding table. In the datagram forwarding table, it will be calculated based upon the routing algorithm. The forwarding table will be something like that: the destination address and your output link, and this destination address is based upon your IP destination address, which is been added by the source in your arriving packets. So the header or the IP address which is in your header will be matched according to the forwarding table, and then according to the forwarding table it will be forwarded onto the required output link. So there are billions of IP addresses, so rather then in list individual destination address, list of ranges of address, it will aggregate the table entries. So it will reduce as well the table entries. So what we do here is we give a range of addresses because there are billions of addresses. So in order to simplify the forwarding table, we give here is if these range of addresses come at the incoming port, then it will be forwarded on this particular output port. Let's see an example. The datagram forwarding table will be computed based upon routing algorithm. So assume an example that you have calculated successfully is forwarding table, and so the forwarding table is something like that. The destination address range will be given and your link interface. So what here is done is that if these range of addresses are given, then if any of the packet in these ranges are come, then it will be forwarded onto the output link number 0, and in the second entry, if these range of addresses come, then it will be forwarded on to the link number 1, and so on to the link number 2, and if any of these ranges does not exist, then it will be forwarded on to the link interface number 5. So you can see here the destination address ranges are been given. In first entry, you are given a range of something like this through this. So any address comes in this range, it will be forwarded on to the link interface number 0. This forwarding table is been implemented at the router. So we are discussing about the routers only or the network core. So the forwarding table is here. You can see we have given you an destination address range and the output and link interface. You can see here it is very much not simplified yet. In order to simplify this forwarding table, a concept of longest prefix matching exists. What does longest prefix matching does here? When looking for forwarding table entry for a given destination address, we use a longest address prefix that matches the destination address in order to simplify your forwarding table. So after what you do here is to match your prefix of your destination address range. So let's match the first entry. This is your first entry in the forwarding table. If longest prefix matching is applied, let's match these two prefixes, these two basically addresses. Let's match. There is no difference. These first bytes are similar, and similarly you can see these remaining 8 bytes are also similar, and you can see here that up till this entry all the bytes are similar, but after these you can see here 16 and 5 first 21 bits are similar of these two address ranges. So what longest prefix match does here, that it means the range of address will be are matched up till this entry, तो यहाँ पे क्या होगा कि आपका जो अब डेस्टिनेशन एड्रेस रेंज बनेगी वो ये बनेगी आपकी कुछ इस तरह से कि जो आपकी मैच हो गई हैं बिट्स वो लिख दी जाएंगी और रिमेनिंग को आप छोड़ देंगे या उनके अगेंस्ट आप स्टार लिख देंगे, और अब आपका जो डेस्टिनेशन एड्रेस रेंज है वो सिंप्लीफाइड हो गया और जो फॉरवर्डिंग टेबल भी सिंप्लाई हो गया, उसको मज़ीद करने की ज़रूरत नहीं। अच्छा, फिर क्या करेंगे, सेकंड एंट्री को मैच करेंगे। तो सेकंड एंट्री में आप मैच देख सकते हैं कि मैच जो है वो 24 बिट्स का मैच है। अच्छा, तो हम क्या करेंगे, जो मैच हो चुकी हैं 24 बिट्स उनको एज इट इज़ लिख देंगे और रिमेनिंग जो 8 बिट्स उनके अगेंस्ट या तो उनकी एंट्री खाली छोड़ देंगे या उनके अगेंस्ट स्टार लिख देंगे। तो आपकी जो सेकंड एंट्री है फॉरवर्डिंग टेबल में वो भी सिंप्लीफाई हो गई है। अब थर्ड एंट्री को मैच करते हैं, तो थर्ड एंट्री जो है वो हमारी पहली 8 बिट सिमिलर हैं, देन आपकी नेक्स्ट 8 बिट सिमिलर्स हैं, देन आपके पास जो है वो फिर 5 बिट सिमिलर हैं और रिमेनिंग जो आपके पास 11 बिट्स हैं वो सिमिलर नहीं है। तो अब आपका जो ये बनेगा सेकंड एंट्री वो आपके पास थर्ड एंट्री वो भी सिंप्लीफाई हो गई। तो आपका जो फॉरवर्डिंग टेबल है उसको सिंप्लीफाई कर दिया हमने। और अच्छा, इधर क्या हुआ है, फोर्थ एंट्री उसमें चूँकि अदरवाइज़ लिखा हुआ है, इनके अलावा कुछ और होगा तो उसको मज़ीद सिंप्लीफाई वो वैसे ही रहेगा, वो सिंप्लीफाई नहीं हो सकता। तो अब आपके पास जो पहले वाला फॉरवर्डिंग टेबल था वो काफ़ी ज़्यादा कॉम्प्लेक्स था, एंड यू कैन सी हियर द रिजल्टिंग forwarding table after longest prefix matching has been more simplified. So in order to simplify your forwarding table, we do the longest prefix matching, which does the simplification of your forwarding table, and the resulting forwarding table after prefix match will be something like this. So in order to choose between datagram or virtual circuit, let's compare what does datagram do and where it has been implemented. Datagram is been implemented in your internet. The data is been exchanged with among the computers, and there is no need to set up the connection. And whereas the virtual circuit has been implemented in the telephony services or the ATM services, it has been evolved from the telephony service, and you can see the level of complexity. The level of complexity in the virtual circuit is high inside the network, and whereas the datagram is somewhat simplified and the complexity is no doubt at the edge or the end system, but overall in the network or the core devices, the datagram is architecture is much simplified. So now let's discuss about the router or the routing device, how it does the routing and what is consist of. So the functionality of router is to route the packets which are coming from the source and onto the destination. So what this router will be doing here is to perform the routing of packets and also to determine the forwarding table from the routing, and the forwarding table will basically forward the datagrams from incoming routing link to the output routing link. So the router will be consisting of two key functionalities. First one is to run the routing algorithms or the routing protocols. The routing protocols which are most famous are RIP, OSPF and BGP. We will discuss in the upcoming lecture these three routing protocol as well. And the second key functionality is to forward the datagrams from the incoming routing port to the output routing port. So how does a router will be look like in an architectural point of view? So there will be your incoming routing ports or the input ports of a router, and your output ports of a router, and inside a router will be a high speed switching fabric which will do the switching. And how it will do the switching, our router processor will be performing the processing or the computation part here. So it will consist of four entities: the input ports, the output port, a high speed switching fabric, and a routing processor. Oh, the spelling mistake here, so let me correct it for you. High speed switching fabric. So the routing management or the control plane or the software plane is only consist, or it will be having a routing processor. The hardware plane or the forwarding data plane will consist of your router input port, router output port, high speed switching fabric, and the forwarding table will be computed by the routing processor, and the forwarding table computed will push the input data to the output ports. So let's see how it does the functionality. Let's see first entity, which is the input port. So in input port you can see there are three sub functionalities. First one is the line termination, second one is the link layer protocol, and the third one is the lookup forwarding. So the input port is consisting of your three layers: the physical layer, the data link layer, and your network layer. The network layer will be having your forwarding table or a queue, so in order to determine which packet will be forwarded onto the output port. So the line termination is basically your physical layer. It will receive the bits and then convert into the frames for the delivery to the link layer, and link layer is your will have your same functionality as the data link layer, which will convert the frame and will match the frames accordingly and will deliver the frame onto the network layer. And here the network layer or the forwarding table will do here is consists of a decentralized switching in which the datagram each the given datagram destination will be looked up in the output port using the forwarding table, and if the match occur, then it will be forwarded onto the particular destination port. So where our goal is to complete the input processing at a high speed, so queuing will be done as a faster time in order to hold the packets. So the second part is the switching fabric or high speed switching fabric. This high speed switching fabric functionality will here is to transfer the packets from the input port buffer or the input port queue to the appropriate output port buffer or the output port queue. So here the switching rate will determine the transfer rate from the input port to the output port. So it is measured as a multiple of input and output line rate. So if you are having an n inputs, the switching rate is n times the line rate desirable. So there are three type of switching fabrics that can router consist of. First one is a memory based switching fabric, second one is your bus based switching fabric, and third one is your crossbar based switching fabric. Let's discuss the first one, which is a memory based switching fabric. If a memory based switching fabric is been implemented, which is basically a first generation router, in this you have a traditional computer type architecture in which a switching is done under the direct control of a CPU. So the packet will be copied to the system memory, and then the memory will do the processing, and it will be determined based upon the speed limited, as the memory has a limited bandwidth. So the memory based switching is quite slow. So you can see the example, the memory basically is doing the pile up job here, and then it will forward the packet. It will hold the packet for a while and do the computation, and it will forward the packet. So if in order to reduce the switching time, memory is being replaced by a bus architecture. So in this case all the input ports are directly connected to the output port via bus. So the output port basically are and the input port are being shared on a bus. So the speed of switching is being limited here is depend upon a bus bandwidth or a bus speed. So the fastest I have seen a switching fabric using a bus is a Cisco 5600 based switching fabric or a router 5600 Cisco, which has a 32 gigabit per second bus, which has sufficient speed to provide access for your access and enterprise router. So if you are further want to improve the speed, then a crossbar based or interconnection based network can be designed in order to overcome the bus bandwidth limitation. Banyan networks or Banyan networks or a crossbar can be implemented, in which the data fragments are being directly switched onto the particular crossbar switching fabric. So this type of fabric has a higher speed as compared to the bus. And now move on to discuss the third type of third part of a router, which is your output port, with which will be having a similar functionality of your input port, and same three layers. The network layer highlighted in red will be doing the queuing of your datagram, and then you have a link layer protocol which will be working, and a physical layer. So the buffering will required from the buffering here is due to when the datagram are arrived from the switching fabric faster than the transmission rate. So in order to buffer the data, we have implemented a buffer, output buffer here, and it will determine in the order in which the output packet will be going through the network. So yes, the datagram packets can be lost due to congestion, or we have seen in the TCP example as well, it can be lost due to a congestion in a network. So if we do not have a buffer, so the retransmission cannot be done if a transport layer of TCP service being utilized. So in order to have a retransmission scenario, we have a output buffer, so it will hold the packet until its acknowledgement has been received. And also scheduling has been done in order to determine which packet has to be delivered first, and the prioritize and the scheduling has been done based on the priorities. So whichever has a best priority, it will be forwarded first, and the lowest priority packet will be forwarded at later on. So output port queuing is done to retransmit the packet as well. So how much buffering we can do is the real question here. So it is been defined in the RFC 3439 for a rule of thumb that average buffering is equal to the typical RTT. So let's say if your RTT is 2.5 seconds, then your average buffering will be equal to the RTT multiplied by the link capacity. So the buffer size will be equal to the RTT multiply your link speed. So in case you have a link speed of 10 gigabit per second and RTT is 2.5, so you will multiply 2.5 with 10 gigabit per second, will give you an answer of 25 gigabit per second. That answer will be 25 gigabit buffer. So the buffer space will be of 25 gigabits. So in order to have that much link speed, you have to have a buffer with a capacity of 25 gigabit per second if your RTT is 2.5 seconds. Let's say your RTT is 0.5 seconds, which is 500 milliseconds. So in this case, the buffering will be something like 10 gigabit per second multiplied by 0.5, which is equal to 5 gigabit per second. So the buffering depends upon your RTT and your link speed. So that's all for today. Inshallah, we will have our first live session on tomorrow. My advice for you is to revise and see these lectures, the slides as well, and the video lecture, in order to have your questions for tomorrow's lecture. Okay, Allah Hafiz for today.